Here is the best normal light bowgun build for Title Update 2.5 with a craftable charm. Here is the best normal light bowgun build for Title Update 2.5 but with a god charm. What's going on everyone? It is Damo and here I am with a normal light bowgun build video for you guys. Now, there are a few people who are asking about this one in the comments, and there's been a few people on Discord wondering if I was going to be optimizing normal ammo. The answer is yes, but just understand that this is not actually a meta ammo type. You'll see that in the heading and thumbnail, I've actually put off meta because normal ammo is not the strongest ammo type, but of course it deserves the love and it deserves to get optimized with the same, effort as Pierce, Spread, and Elemental. So I will just let everyone know that the normal ammo build that I've created is 70%, 77% as powerful as spread ammo, which I know a 23% damage drop doesn't sound like too much, but when you consider that it's going to be taking longer for you to, get those downs, longer to get those part breaks, those wound creations, it is going to make hunts harder. But it's not like the ammo type is going to be completely unplayable, right? It actually does solid damage throughout the hunt. It's just not as powerful as things like Spread, Pierce, or Elemental. Now, just quickly, some background information on normal ammo. There's been some changes for Title Update 2.5 regarding normal ammo, or at least not just normal ammo, but things that are going to be affecting the build today. The biggest change to normal ammo that actually wasn't even mentioned in the patch notes, but it was a bug fix whereby I'm going to call them bogus shots. And basically, you would be point blank and you'd be attacking a monster. And sometimes it would act like one of the shots you did was just completely out of critical distance. Now, it was quite frustrating because, clearly you were in critical distance, you knew what you were doing, and you could almost test it on the training dummy. You'd be shooting, and it felt like 1 in every 10 shots would simply just be a nerfed shot as if you were out of critical distance and you would take a huge damage penalty. That bug has actually been fixed now, and I found that when I was hunting, when I was testing, I was never getting any of those bogus shots, which is really good. Another change that's going to be affecting the builds today is that adhesive ammo was buffed. Now, I've got a special section of this video dedicated to the playstyle of normal light bowgun, and you're going to see there that adhesive ammo is going to be quite important. Alright, now getting into the build with a craftable charm, guys, we're going to be going with the Gore Guts setup, which is going to be 2 pieces of Gore Magala armor, and then 3 pieces of armor that's going to give us that Guts set bonus. Now, 2 of those are going to come from Arch-Tempered Radar, and then the last one is going to come from Arch-Tempered Uth Duna. It's going to be nice because we are also, because we're using 2 pieces of Radar armor, we're going to be getting that Radar's Voltage bonus, which is going to be useful when we have a look at the skills on the build. Now, just quickly having a look at the gun itself, it's going to be the gun from Doshiguma, regular, not the Guardian one. And that's because it's going to have a clip size of normal ammo level 3 of 4 with the mods that I've shown earlier in the video, which are going to increase its capacity from 2 up to 4. And, having that massive 240 attack definitely makes up for having that minus 5% affinity, which of course we're going to be increasing that affinity with a lot of different skills on the build. Something that I found quite interesting about normal ammo is that there were multiple different guns that we could be using. So obviously we have the Doshiguma gun here. A perfect Ardian gun, when it's in rapid fire mode, can get 1 more bullet in its clip. However, yes, it has 10% more affinity, but it does have 20 less raw if you go with a perfect Ardian setup trying to max out the raw. It caps out at 220, unfortunately. So the Doshiguma gun will end up being more powerful than the Ardian gun. However, if you really like to use the Ardian guns, you can build them to have paralysis or sleep ammo, which can definitely be useful. And given that they're only 3% weaker, some people may find that status that you get in a hunt, and you can potentially proc it twice, but I don't believe it's worth it. But if you really want to, you could go for 1 or 2 paras or 1 or 2 sleeps, or even both if you use 2 different bowguns. However, for the build video today, we are obviously going to be sticking to that Doshiguma gun because we want that 3% power boost, since as I mentioned earlier in the video, this is 77% the DPS of Spread. One more bowgun that you could use for a build like this is going to be the Seregios, or given its nickname Steve, light bowgun. But the thing with the Steve gun is going to be that its stats are lower, so it's actually weaker than that of the Perfect Ardian gun, because it's got less raw. It does have more affinity, but it has less raw, and then its clip size is also smaller. Now, you could still use Steve's gun because where it's going to have an advantage is when you perfect dodge a bunch of attacks and get those extra blade scale bullets. But the thing is, if you're going to have such an aggressive, evasive playstyle, I'm just going to recommend using spread ammo. And I have a build where I optimize spread ammo on the channel. Or I have a video where I optimize spread ammo on the channel. So, going to be sticking to the Doshiguma gun for this one. We have a look on the right here and we can see the skill list, quite typical skills here of a Gorgut set. We've seen all these ones here before. What's nice about Gorguts is that you do, with that gut set bonus, you have the ability to survive a lethal attack. So it makes it not just the most powerful build, but also one of the most comfortable builds, right? You can see other nice skills here: Evade Window 3, Quick Sheath 3, Earplugs 2. So you actually have quite a lot of skills that are, considered comfort skills, but can indirectly also lead to DPS, right? We look at Evade Window, you might iframe an attack that you may not have been able to dodge. So if you have that Evade Window, it lets you iframe the attack, an attack that would have otherwise hit you, making you lose heaps of HP, and then you have to go and heal up, right? But because you were able to iframe it, you got to then, quickly recover and then keep doing damage. So it indirectly can increase your DPS, right? Quick Sheath is another one. With Light Bowgun, having Quick Sheath 3, it makes your sheath feel like it's almost instant. It's a really nice feeling to have. And then Earplugs level 2, it is indirectly, or in fact, it is almost directly a DPS gain, since, you can just, instead of needing to roll one of the raws from, say, Arkveld or someone else, you just keep on shooting. So those are the skills that are going to, affect your DPS without being directly tied to your damage. And then, of course, we're going to be stacking up a lot of damage skills, as you can see right here. Now, guys, where normal ammo gets really interesting is when you decide to upgrade your build with a RNG charm, right? Now, looking at the weapon skills that we already had on the previous build, we had opening shot 3 because it was tied to the gun. We had critical boost level 3, and then we had normal shots. The thing about the easier RNG charm, so I'm looking at sort of your rarity 5, maybe a rarity 6 charm, is that critical boost isn't going to be on any of those because critical boost is a much heavier weighted skill. So that's seen on rarer charms like rarity 7 and rarity 8. Very similar can be said for normal shots. Now, whilst opening shot is a good skill that's on this build, it's not decoed into the build because it actually comes on the gun. So we have to start to get creative when we search for skills that we're going to be putting on our RNG charms to, increase the power of these builds. Sometimes taking the direct approach is not the best way to get more out of your build. Sometimes you need to take the indirect approach. And what we're going to be doing for normals is actually add on a level of ballistics. Going from ballistics 0 to ballistics 1 increases your long range critical distance by 10%. Now that's going to be important because if you're ever too far away from the monster, then you lose 90% of the damage. So one of the things we're going to do is just simply get our craftable charm, which is Agitator 2. And then if you get Agitator with a level 3 slot, it's got the same value as that Agitator 2 charm, but then you can simply get an extra level of ballistics, which is going to help you with your damage uptime on the monster. There are a couple of options you can do to also increase your damage a little bit. A level of critical eye for a bit more affinity, a level of attack boost, a level of special ammo boost could even work for your adhesive ammo. But all of these are quite minor, and I would say that the one you're going to get the best use out of is going to be that first level of ballistics. It should also be noted, guys, that that level of agitator, a 3 slot, and then a level of ballistics on the charm, well, you could trade that level of agitator for a level of burst, and you're going to have essentially the same setup because, as you know, there is one level of burst that has been slotted onto our armor set, to get that first level. If you were to get a burst charm with a 3 slot and then a level of ballistics, you would just simply take off that burst decoration and put in an extra decoration for Agitator to make sure that you do still hit Agitator level 5. Now guys, when we look at using a God Charm for this build, things get really interesting. Because the thing about these Rarity 8 God Charms is that you can't actually get the same efficiency of armor skills on them as you can with these Rarity 5 or even Rarity 6 charms. So this build is going to have to drop a point of Agitator. Now if we're going to drop a point of Agitator, we need to make sure that what we pick up is worth it. And we're going to be doing that by getting a charm that's got Ballistics 3, one level of Agitator or Burst, whichever one you happen to get, and then you want to get that level 1 weapon decoration slot. Now, of course, these charms can come with some armor slots, but they're only going to be level 1, and they're not going to add much to our build, so just go for whatever comfort skill of your choice you want to put there. I really like Blindsider, since it allows me to flash monsters from behind. I also like Adaptability, because it means that I don't need to have a cold drink when I go into the Oil Well Basin, or a hot drink when I go into the Ice Shard Cliffs. But back to that charm, we're going to be losing 1 point of Agitator on our build. However, we get that extra weapon decoration slot, which means that we can actually get a 4th level of crit boost for a nice power boost, which essentially makes up for losing the Agitator. But then we get Ballistics 3. Now, Ballistics 1, I mentioned earlier in the video, is a 10% increase to your range. And then going from 1 to 2 is a further 5%. And then from 2 to 3 is another 10%. So that's going to total a 25% range increase over having no ballistics for your long distance range. Now, I said earlier in the video, and I'm just going to repeat it again, if you're too far away from the monster, you lose 90% of your damage. So having a bigger long range critical distance is really useful, and that's what this God Charm allows the build to pick up. If you wanted to, guys, you could also, instead of having a Ballistics 3 charm, you could have that level of normal shots here, and then you would just slot the 3 levels of ballistics onto your gun. You know, you just rework it like that. So you technically have 4 different options for the God Charm here, right? You could go normal shots plus Agitator, normal shots plus Burst, Ballistics 3 plus Agitator, Ballistics 3 plus Burst. And as long as it's a Rarity 8 charm, then you're going to be able to have all of those options laid out there for you. So there's technically 4 different God Charms that could work for this build. Alright guys, so before we finish off the video, I just wanted to quickly run through the light bowgun normal ammo playstyle. Starting off, when you're in rapid fire mode, just press and hold the shoot button so that you quickly do those 5-round bursts one after the other. If you try to mash the trigger, you'll actually shoot slower because this game has animation blending in it. And what that's going to mean is that if you were to try and mass press the trigger, then it's going to shoot slower than just pressing and holding, because it's going to, connect those 2 animations. So it would be like, these aren't the exact numbers, but say you have 60 frames per shot. That would mean, you'd shoot once per second. But if blending the 2 shots together, you could result in 110 frames, which is 55 frames per shot. So just something to be aware of. So press and hold the trigger when you're in rapid fire mode. Don't need to spam burst step or anything like that. Occasionally you might use burst step to dodge an attack while still doing some damage, but for the most part, just press and hold the trigger and then, standard reloads. When you're out of rapid fire mode, use those normal chasers because it's going to fill the gauge faster than just spamming normal ammo shots. Another really important thing is to use your special ammo when it's off cooldown. There's a really nice connection between adhesive ammo and normal ammo, because adhesive ammo sticks to the monster, that's why it's called adhesive ammo. And then the more times that the adhesive ammo is hit before it explodes, the more powerful that explosion is going to be. There's also going to be some tick damage that happens before the explosion, and you're going to get more ticks the more times that you shoot the adhesive ammo when it's lodged into the monster. The cool part about normal ammo is that each hit counts as a hit for the adhesive ammo, right? So because normal ammo shoots 3 bullets at once, that's going to count as 3 different hits. And then when you're in rapid fire mode, it's going to count as 5 hits for adhesive ammo. So there's actually some really nice synergy that's going on there. That also is another reason as to why we want to run 2 identical bowguns. It's not just for when you gauge swap and you get that whole, rapid fire gauge back, but you also get to abuse your adhesive ammo more when you do that. Alright guys, well that's all I've got for you today. If you enjoyed this optimization of off-meta content, let me know in the comments section. See you next time.